Now, back to business.
Uh-oh. I forgot to ask you what this paid.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle Chaffin. This is episode 1 of Maybe Danielle, Maybe a Podcast. This may be the only episode that I ever record or publish. Who knows? We'll see what the future holds for us, and we'll also see how this goes. For this special episode, I've wanted to sit down with my grandpa for quite some time and record our conversation, record some of his stories. As some of you know, he's a retired truck driver, or as he puts it, an owner-operator who finally quit. Over his career, he has driven an estimated 5.4 million miles. That's a lot of miles, and there's a lot of stories in those 5.4 million miles. He's a project man. He's full of stories, and I love and respect him dearly. The first part of this episode includes video footage of what I like to refer to as my inheritance. He gave me a rundown on his first truck, turned my dad's first truck, a 1975 Diamond Rio. And then we looked at a few of his projects, a 1952 Chevrolet hardtop two-door, and then a Peterbilt cab and something about a 400 horsepower engine. The latter of the episode is simply audio. It's just us talking. Unfortunately, my mic didn't work. It's not that it didn't work. The battery died and I didn't charge it. But that's okay because he's the one that you really came to hear. That's enough intro for me. Here's my grandpa, Larry Chaffin.
But it's faded out. It used to have his name there on the door.
Oh, yeah. The picture that I use, I have it on my social media at the top. It has his name real clear up there.
It's just faded out. It said Baxter, Tennessee.
Yeah. This was yours first?
Yeah. That's the first one that I had to go out on my own.
Yeah.
And then I passed it down to Terry.
Oh, yeah. He said he always got the hand-me-downs.
Yeah, and he complained because I would let him get sort of run down because I would be working on another one to replace it, see. And he would complain. That was the first one. The next one was a Kenworth, and it's gone. He sold it, and they ended up wrecking it. They fixed it up quite a bit and then wrecked it.
What's that one? The Peterbilt.
That one we never did run. That's just a parts truck.
Oh.
This is the only one that we actually ran.
Well, Dad had a black one too, didn't he? I know
he did. Yeah, he sold it. Oh, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Okay. It sat for a long time, and then he sold it. That was a 79 Pete.
That's so cool.
That one didn't even have a power steering.
Really?
I saw this truck in Nashville. They were taking the stuff out of it, the motor and transmission out of this truck to put in a brand new glider kit. Mm-hmm. Man, I just, I thought I liked the looks of it. I was hauling gasoline then. And I ended up buying, this was like a used glider. I bought it for, I think, $2,500. It didn't have any rears or no motor transmission. Okay. So then I gathered up parts and put it back together, and that was, and I put it to work for Averett.
Wow.
And
Mom had to quit from there. I thought that she got escorted out, and that's the story I've been telling for a long time, but apparently that's not true.
I think her and Richard got into it, didn't they?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Something about she wore a sweatshirt in there with Chaffin trucking on it.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know any details. She didn't know, of course. But I was thinking her and Richard maybe butted heads. I just saw his sister today and talked to her a pretty good while at the grocery store, Pam.
Yeah.
But yeah, old Richard he was maybe even part owner at one time, a small part, but not enough to stay because when they got ready to get rid of him, they did. But he was pretty high up. He was one hired me. Yeah. He was a wheel. He was a wheel.
Too, and I didn't.
Now, Philip and I were the same age. And when I come up here and started school, he was one of the first people I met. And I'd heard my daddy talk about his dad. So we kind of hit it off.
Yeah.
And then Richard is year or two older than Philip. He's still living. Pam said he wasn't getting around good, but he's still living. But yeah, he got his experience in Nashville with a couple of little companies. He even brought the union in on one of the companies. But that's where he got his experience. And then he came up here and the Sassers grabbed him when they were just getting going strong. They only had one or two trucks years ago when I can remember even.
Yeah.
And they, most people couldn't understand how fast that they grew. Of course, there was a Sasser politician that wasn't supposed to be kin to him, but some wondered if that was some of their help. I'm talking about other trucking people couldn't understand how they got to going so fast.
Oh yeah.
But it worked out all right for me. I was up there a little while. The fact I could sit here at home until I got a load, and then just take off up there and hook the trailer and go. But they had growing pains. We would get up north, and it was like, call me back now, because there wasn't no cell phones in. And you'd have to go in, get on the payphone, call them back and see if they had anything. Finally get you a load back to Cookville, about $1 a mile.
I remember sitting up. I can't remember if it was up there on the computer or down here at the house, but you were with Mercer by this time, but helping Granny find you.
Oh, really?
Loads. Once they had, at some point, they had put it all on the internet and had their like load board on
Yeah.
And we would get
Yeah,
on
Mercer
there
did. They did.
I wasn't super young, but young enough that I was still spending the night.
Cell phones might have not have been better. When do you think cell phones come into? When I went to Mercer, cell phones wasn't popular. I mean, they wasn't in yet.
Yeah.
Because we had pagers, and then of course they at some point Janice bought me a phone. My first phone number was a Memphis area code. Didn't even have it around here.
Really?
Yeah, but it was not much. It wasn't super expensive, but every time I used it, I would probably be in another area. Let's get in out of the mosquitoes if you want to. They're bad down here. They're real bad. We would every time you was in a different town, it would charge you a roaming charge. So you had to be careful how much you used it. But and I would go through a town sometimes, and they would call me. It's really, I'm sorry. It was really crazy, but the tower would know you was going through town, and it would call you. I don't know. I don't remember now if that call cost or not.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it was kind of crazy. It was mounted in the truck. The phone was. But
it's crazy now. All the tracking devices they have.
Oh yeah.
Compared to you not having a phone at all, and then a pager.
All that stuff is unreal. Well, that's like Terry. He was showing me on his phone. This old boy had slowed down. It tattled on him. He'd been running like 60-something mile an hour, and all of a sudden he slowed down to about 15. Well, there was cars up in front of him slowing down. He had to slow down. It wasn't like he was sliding the tires or anything, but he had to slow down. What I'm going to show you out here, it'll take just a minute. I got to get the key out of one garage and open another one. There's a truck that, since you're a trucking girl, I'm going to show you a truck that I started and then goofed around and didn't get it done in time to use it. That was going to be my last. It is my last. That's going to be my last project. And it was going to be a little house, but anyway. I think this is a 69 cab, Peterbilt. And it's just, it's just in that state of repair.
Yeah.
But it was going to be that's a V8 Mac motor that I had. And that motor runs. That's a V8 Mac motor. It's about a 400 horse, I believe. I'm not sure what they rate that at. But they will run. They will. I've never drove one, but I know they've got the power. They use them overseas a lot.
Yeah.
Australia, I think, uses them a lot. So,
what are you going to do with it now?
I may get back to working on it a little. It starts and moves, but it doesn't have air lines and stuff on it. The power steering I took off and loaned to a man, and it's not got put back on yet. I had it on there working. That's it laying there, but I guess
that rain?
That is rain. We make a break for it. But I got the hard work done, and then I got the hard work done, and then I got lazy and this, that, and the other, and didn't get on around to finishing it. I've got a sleeper to go on it that's I think it's a double eagle, about 80 inch. It'd come back. It's not real big. It'd be about like this. Had a full size bed in it. And then the rest of the stuff is just getting messed up. This is my golf cart to go to the rallies.
It works?
Huh?
It works?
Sure it works. I loaned it to Presley. He took it to Junebug.
And this is the bike?
This is the bike that we ride most of the time. This one and the red one.
Yeah.
But
what do you say what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine?
That's when you're young. When you get old, that changes. But this was a man that was doing his car. He had a machine shop. Mm-hmm. And far as I know, I mean, this is kind of wishful thinking, but I think he did everything to this motor, and it's never been started. It doesn't even have any oil in it. So hopefully that is a good motor. It's got a brand new carburetor on it.
Wow.
And he put it, the only thing I hate really about it, he put this car on an S10 pickup frame.
This car?
Yeah.
On an S10
yeah,
frame?
it's a different frame under there. I wished it was still the original frame.
Yeah.
Be easier. But he wanted to get it down, the new suspension and all that.
So what is this? Like year?
It's a 1952 Chevrolet, 2-door hardtop. I don't know. See, that car out there is just like it. It's got all the chrome with it, but the body's not as good a shape. This one, I've got painted fenders down in the trailer. Yeah. I don't know why he put those old fenders on it. A man's dead. Can't find out nothing from him. But there's not been much trucking going on in here. This is mostly toys, as you can see.
Is this what happens after you retire from trucking? Projects?
Well,
and then you fully retire.
Actually, I just quit work. So I don't really say I retired. I just quit work.
Okay.
You know.
Makes sense.
Owner-operators don't have retirement. Hopefully you got a little something in the cookie jar, you know. Let me hang this key up. I'll go ahead and get in the dry.
Now, back to business.
Uh-oh. I forgot to ask you what this paid.
To be decided. Super Shell started out as a fuel hauler.
Right.
And you did that, I forgot.
About 12 years.
Yeah, but why? You just love to drive.
Well, that was my job. I got the job at the oil company as a flunky, and then it turned into more driving, and the man died that was driving the transport truck, and I got his job hauling from Nashville to Cookville and Livingston.
They didn't have CDL schools back then, did they?
I doubt it. I don't think there was any CDL back then. It was just chauffeur's license.
Really?
That was in 1968.
Wow. Isn't that dangerous hauling fuel?
Do what?
Dangerous hauling fuel.
That's a little dangerous than any other thing, but my thoughts on it was, if you have a bad wreck, it don't matter what you're hauling. If you have a small wreck, it doesn't matter what you're hauling. You know, either ways. Small wreck, you probably be all right. A bad wreck in anything's going to come out bad. So I never knew the guys I knew. Let's see, I knew one guy that probably had a heart attack or something and wrecked, and he did burn up. But the other guys that I knew that had pretty bad wrecks, they came out of them. Yeah. They did okay. The gas caught on fire after they got away from the wreck. So
I can imagine that's has to be hard. When did you buy your first truck then? Maybe not when, why?
Just on a whim. I was still satisfied hauling gas for the other man.
Yeah.
But I bought the old Rio that we saw there and was working on it. And I guess, I don't know if they thought I might be going to quit anyway, but they ended up letting me go and kept the other guy. And so I went ahead and finished that.
Is he in trouble? Yeah. You better get down. What's this one's name? Rowdy. You better get down.
He's ended up knocking something over.
He is.
But that's the reason, and that was a good move. You know, I actually got fired from that job, but that was a good move because it made me go on my own. It made me go on my own.
Yeah.
And I won't say I made a lot more money, but I was more my own boss. I could determine when I wanted to be off and so on.
Yeah. So from that point, you were on your own
Yeah.
operator.
Yeah, from about 82, yes. And went through 4 trucks. And this last truck I've been running, this last one I've been running since 1990.
Wow. How many miles does that one?
I don't know. I'll average about 100,000 a year. So, yeah, probably about 2 million.
You averaged 100,000 a year? How many years?
That's not a lot of miles, but that's about what I average.
Yeah, but over the course of your career,
the whole time I probably run about 100,000 a year.
So how many years are we looking at here?
68 till what, 2 years ago? Huh? What year did I actually quit? This is 24, so Christmas of 22.
And when did you start? 68?
Yeah. That's when I started driving.
54 years times 100,000 miles is 5.4 million miles.
We'll round it off. I'd say around 5 million.
It's a lot of miles.
It is. It's a lot of miles. But
4 trucks in 5.4 million miles.
And I actually got 1 million safe driving from Mercer.
You have a plaque somewhere, don't you?
I do.
I
do.
So.
I think it's in there on the wall.
One of your buddies had something like that too.
But I was working on another one, and I had a wreck that was my fault because I was turning out of a road, and the guy come from the other way. I was looking down the road and hit him.
Yeah.
So technically, it was my fault, and that messed that one up. And I never did get another million after that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't care about having wrecks. I wasn't really working on miles, or anything. I mean, cool. Plaques or anything.
1 million miles with no accident.
Yeah.
Safety award.
I probably had another. I'm just throwing this in. I probably had another one or two in between there that I just didn't get it recognized for them.
Yeah.
Because changing jobs or this and that.
Oh yeah, because you weren't with Mercer.
No.
The whole time.
No. I was with McGugan Oil. That was the gas hauling. Then Averett. And then Star Transportation in Nashville, and then Mercer.
Averett and Star are still around. McGugan's still around.
Yeah. Now Star, I don't know much about them because I think their parent company, which is Humboldt Express, I think they sold out to another outfit.
I'll have to Google it. I don't know.
They were out of Nashville.
Trailers, but I don't see a lot of.
I believe that they might have sold to Covenant over at Chattanooga.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure of that because I was gone.
Well, I have the internet at my fingertips. Star. Covenant's huge now. I don't know.
See, Averett, I got fired because it wouldn't shave.
Covenant buys Star Transport for $40 million, 2006.
Okay.
I found an article.
Well, I'd been gone a while because I went to Mercer. I think I went to Mercer in 94. Star got rid of all of us owner-operators at one time. They decided to go all company trucks.
Star did?
They did, yeah.
Interesting.
the owner of Humboldt was a big friend. I'm just throwing this in. He was a big friend of McWhirter, that was the governor of Tennessee.
Yeah.
One time they were, I guess McWhirter owned volunteer trucks or somebody like that. Anyway, they were competitors but friends.
Yeah.
And then Star, the man that owned Star, I don't even remember his name, but he gave everything over to his daughter to run. And she made a big deal, like being on magazine covers, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I guess they ended up selling it then in a few years.
Well, I won't say a lot about women running companies, but
No,
I haven't seen too much success with it.
well, she didn't last that long, I don't think. She came in with a bang. She even got out and rode with truck driver, her company drivers, see how it's all about.
Yeah.
I never did actually meet the lady. But, I tell you, one woman in trucking I think did good is Bennett Trucking in Georgia. Flatbed.
It's Bennett family of companies. They have.
Well, it was a woman that ran it, because I saw a picture of her. She was a good-looking lady.
They're still
running
around.
it. Yeah.
I
they sponsor race cars and so on.
Yeah, I saw them at. Well, I didn't see them. I think they had a booth or something when I went to Matt's this year.
Probably did.
I saw them up there.
I forget who they. Do you remember who Bennett Trucking sponsors in the race car? It's right on the side of it. Anyway, they, that's a pretty good sponsorship, and they put out monies on NASCAR stuff. So
I'm sure that's expensive.
So they must be making some money. But
I was gonna ask you something. Friends on the road. Like Dad had Uncle Dean. I know there was more, but Uncle Dean was pretty.
They saw eye to eye
in my life.
Yeah. They saw things a lot alike.
Yeah. Did you have any friends like that weren't around here that were really good friends? Austin Hill.
Okay. Not that much, because I didn't branch out that much.
Yeah.
I don't think I was a loner, because when I was around anybody, I was full of bull.
You have a lot of friends.
But I just I didn't allow anybody to latch on to me, and I didn't latch on to them. But
I get that.
Actually, at one point, and that was toward the end of trucking, I ran into a man-wife team. Granny got to know them a little bit. Well, Betty knows. They were from over around Maryville, Tennessee, and we ran into each other in. Several of us ran into each other in Laredo, Texas. Went and bought a bunch of food to cook, and that was one time that everybody was fair. We split it all correctly. Now the other people got away. I didn't know them much, but Teresa and Jake Wheat, well, we got to know each other, and they came to Boogie, and would meet up several times. And that's back when several of us would go. It's just kind of like everybody getting together, and they'd come all the way over. One time, she rode a motorcycle from home and come down, and he'd come through here in the truck and parked out here and went to the Junebug, But other than that, I never really branched out there. Most of the trucking friends I knew was right around here.
Yeah.
And most of them are gone now. This man that I've been working on his bus, Joe's, he's 89-year-old. And he was talking how few of us are left in our, of course I'm 10 years younger than him, but in our bunch, most of them.
So who else in your friend group that I know were truck drivers? I know, what was his name? He had Pepsi bottles in his car all the time.
Gerald Bowe. That was Bowe.
Okay,
yeah.
I remember him.
Yeah, now that, of course, here, we talked about every day on the phone. Yeah. Different as daylight and dark, but we were. And Bowe, he was real serious when just he and I talked. Now, if there's a bunch around, he'd act crazy,
Yeah.
But Betty used to think that he was alcoholic.
Yeah,
and I said, no, he's just natural.
him, and I remember being really upset when he passed away. So he had to be around enough for me to be upset.
Oh, he
Yeah.
he was right in the gang, you know.
Yeah.
Of course, he knew Terry and everybody, and yeah, that was Gerald Bowe.
I think he came a few times to pick me up from school with you, actually.
For real?
Mm-hmm.
He actually worked for his sister that owned the truck.
Oh, really?
They were owner operators, but he was working for his sister. Her man got to where he couldn't drive.
Yeah.
And so Bo just went to driving for him, and it worked out fine. You know, she paid him. She kept him going. It's kind of crazy, but she'd buy his clothes and stuff for him just like a mom, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that just suited him just fine. As long as he had a cigarette and a Pepsi is all he cared.
I remember the back
He didn't
of his
drink.
car was full of Pepsi bottles.
And
All
he would smoke in the car, the old car, I don't remember what kind it was, but he would smoke and flip it off down here at the ashtray. And I'm serious, there was a little pyramid about this big around of ashes came up to a point because he would flip them at the same spot, but it wasn't the tray. And they didn't get knocked over. I mean, it would build up, be this high.
Yeah. Wow.
Eddie Jenkins' wife took a deal to clean his truck up one time, I think $100, clean the inside up. And she got in there, she'd spray, he'd smoke so much, it would run yellow, you know,
yeah.
And she said she probably would never do that again, wow, for any amount of money.
Yeah.
But she gave it one good cleaning for him, you know. But that smoking, it gets on the windshield and the upholstery and everything. He smoked one right after another.
I don't remember that part. I just remember the Pepsi bottles.
Well, he would buy, the only way he'd drink a Pepsi was in a plastic bottle.
Yeah.
And he would drink a Diet Pepsi, I believe. He would drink about half of it, and when it started getting warm, he'd throw it away or throw it in the back seat, whatever, you know. But yeah, old boy, I missed him too. And another old boy, I don't know if you remember him or not. Terry knew him well. Was well, I went blank here for a second. He got killed on a motorcycle. Haul cattle, Horton Swift. Do you remember that name? Big old red-headed boy. Now he died around 94 years ago. I don't know.
I remember Mom talking about him a lot.
Yeah, she would have known him.
He went to the hospital and told Dad that I was his baby.
I don't doubt.
But I don't remember him, but I know that he was really close with Mom and Dad.
Used to, there was cattle trailers sitting all around this area, old ones, and they would have his name up on his ones that he had run at one time. Cattle people always put their name on their trailer up on front.
Yeah.
And he'd have Swift, you know, or Horton Swift, whatever. Like you was talking about Dean.
Yeah.
He had his name up on the front. It wasn't his trailer, but he ran it. Dino.
Yeah, I found his kids on Facebook.
Really?
I found a postcard not too long ago that he had sent me from, he had to have been close to Disney World because it was a postcard from Florida.
Really?
And he wrote it to me. It was in 1994, so I'd been 3. And he signed it like it was Mickey Mouse. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a nice dude. He came up here one time and stayed about a week. Just came up to see Terry and stayed about a week. And he wasn't married then, I don't think. And they go out there in my garage and polish on. I gave him some stuff off of Peterbilt, like little steps to go on the fender that you.
Yeah.
And they polished and they'd mix up stuff out of lacquer thinner and polish and so on, mix it together, see what would work better. And I said, I don't care what you do, just don't burn my garage. That's the old garage down there. But they sat out there all hours of the night, you know. Yeah. Now, Terry had possibly was already living on Lance Drive. I don't know at that point.
I know he came
it might have mixed back
and brought his daughter. Because I remember them.
Really? That was the waste can.
That was Rowdy?
Yeah.
Marking over the wasting.
But yeah,
But yeah, I do remember him bringing Tiffany.
I didn't get to know the kids. In fact, I remember when he wasn't married, and then at some point he did get married. So.
Did you ever haul any live animals?
No.
No.
Never hauled any refrigerated.
Really?
Dry van and
high money freight, huh? Well, I guess flatbed is.
Dry van and flatbed.
What's more fun?
Flatbed. More work.
More interesting.
Better people.
Yeah.
The dry van, you would run into people that I call the polyester bunch. They were dressed up, even if they were a little boss, and they felt high up, In flatbed, most people were just regular because they was out working, you know.
That makes sense.
And it was a little harder, but I liked it better all the way around. That's like when I got fired from Avers. What was funny is they came up with a rule and it said you had to wear company clothes and you couldn't have a beard and your sideburns couldn't be long, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And I agreed that I would wear the company clothes, but I never did get them because I ended up getting fired. But I would go to the Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin and so on, especially in the winter. Those old boys up there all had beards. I mean, everybody, that was a dry van.
Yeah.
But the people I was dealing with was bearded dudes, But
and so that's dumb. That was a silly rule. That was a silly rule.
Well, they kind of copied UPS's rule for their guideline. I understand it. In the last few years, they've had to. It's hard to get drivers today. They've weakened down on. In fact, I think they do let them have beards now. I'm sure they tell them how long and everything.
Yeah.
But Richard was one that he wasn't the final say. Actually, I talked to another man. He was the one that actually ran me off. But they said that a beard was a sign of bad. And I said, I don't understand that. I said, I always thought Papa Smurf and Jesus Christ and Santa Claus all had beards, And then, Brad Arnold, the one that fired me.
Yeah. And
he said, beards, and said black hats and beards are bad. And I said, He said, in fact, if my wife, now I can remember stuff like this, Danielle, but I can't remember names and so on.
Yeah.
My mind is messed up. But he said, if my wife was to have a flat, be on the side of the road, said if somebody came up that was shaved and had on a uniform, she wouldn't be scared for them to help her. And I said, well, Brad, if I ever see your wife, I hope I know who she is. Well,
that's a terrible, because there are serial killers that have been very handsome young men, or serial rapists. Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
It's a fine-looking young man.
Really? I remember the name.
Yeah, and he also was a serial rapist and murderer.
Well, that was in the movies. I think in the movies, black hat and beards was the bad thing.
Yeah, I get it.
It didn't make me feel bad. I was just lazy. I didn't want to shave.
I can't imagine you working for anybody, to be honest.
Well, you always got a boss.
I guess.
No matter what you're doing, somewhere there's a boss.
Yeah.
The good thing about trucking, you didn't have to deal with them 24 hours a day. Once you get the load and head down the road,
Well, yeah. And I feel like you had a lucky years. Now they've got all the electronics.
It was better. It was easier.
Can you imagine having a camera inside your truck?
No.
Watching you?
Not only that, even the new electronic logs, I couldn't have made any money under them.
Really?
No. The way I worked.
Yeah.
I couldn't have made any money. I don't know how the guys are making. They're actually learning how to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
But see, I would the 14-hour rule was one that would have messed me up. I would get up of a morning and maybe drive an hour or two to get to my unloading place. I would unload, and then I might sit a long time, and they'd come up with me another load. Well, in order to make any money, I really need to get it there tomorrow.
Yeah.
But by the time I got it loaded, I wouldn't have been able to go anywhere under 14 hours. Under the old rules of marking up you could go off duty
Yeah.
and extend it. But my way of extending it, and this, of course, I can tell you now, but I used to log about 3 different times in a day. I would start out of a morning, and up in the day, I might have to burn that one and start another one. And then at night, when I got done, I burnt that second one and made out what I had to fit the bill.
Yeah. So
loose leaf log.
When and if, I don't even know if this happened, when you got pulled over and someone was checking your logs, like a state trooper or something, did they even know what they were looking at then?
A lot of them didn't.
But now
they
with
really,
the e-logs,
they would
it
try
gives
to,
them a number. It's finite.
Yeah. A few of them could kind of figure your hours.
Yeah.
I had 1 or 2 that actually sat down and added my days prior to see. And I got it a scale up in Minnesota one time early in the morning. I just drove about 5 miles, got on the scale, and he didn't like my tinted windows. And so he came out, had a little machine, he checked my windows, and then I had a thing up on the windshield of tint that peeled off. And it was real dark. I mean, it was black. So he said my side windows, he said, you got to scrape it off. I said, buddy, that don't scrape. I said, that's the real thing. And I was of the opinion I didn't care. You know, I was just Minnesota. What do you expect? I'm from Tennessee. So he pulls me around back. I think I even had a tire a little bad. And I think he wrote me up for 1 tire. Didn't ground me. Took me in, and then he got onto my log. And I had just left down that day, he was grilling me on past days on my log. Because he said, how did you get from so-and-so, Indiana, to Chicago in 30 minutes? I'd left the Flying J down there and went up to one of those. I was pedaling off air conditioners was what was happening. I was, had some small ones, and I was pedaling them off. And I said, well, I guess because it's only about 12 or 15 miles from where I started to where I unloaded. So 30 minutes was plenty of time. Well, how did you do this? And how did you do that? And how did you do this? And I mean, I just got into arguing with, In fact, at one point on that 30-minute deal, another law was sitting there with his back to us, and he turned around and he said, he was one said, I don't know how you could go from there to Chicago in 30 minutes. I said, well, it's only 15 miles. I'm just, arguing with him. Yeah. I think it was at the time that I had some teeth out and I was my old T-shirt on. I said, so then it just got into, and the guy says, he's still looking, he's trying to catch me on something that he can really, I think, find me. Mm-hmm. So he goes and he said, well, what'd you do on the so-and-so day? He come up with like the 28th. I said, I don't know. We ain't got there yet. I guess we'll have to wait. And I had him. I mean, I just saw his face kind of go long.
So he gave you a date that was...
I hadn't even got there yet. Wow. He was questioning me on, it's just a slip up on his part because he just argued. We'd argue back and forth. I was just laying with him, And I started over at a truck stop and just come across the river to the scale. Uh-huh. And that's another thing. He said, well, you started this log an hour ago. I said, you've been talking to me for 40 minutes, and I had an answer for everything. Might not have been right, but I was just determined. I knew I was going to get probably fined. I got fined for that piece of black stuff on my windshield. Yeah. His old RV stuff, for a windshield. Okay. $80. I had to send it to I didn't have to pay it on the spot. Yeah. But I had to mail it. And I never did go back to Minnesota either. That was the last time I was up there.
Where was your favorite place to go?
Favorite? Mm-hmm. Texas, the Carolinas.
Really? Well, yeah. The
drive?
Came
by home, better people to deal with, mostly better weather. Yeah. And especially if you could load in Texas, it was pretty good load, pretty good mileage. Yeah. And I ran quite a bit from Texas to Florida.
Really?
And then
like
harder. No, down south even.
Really?
I would load chillers. They call them chillers instead of air conditioners.
Okay.
load chillers in San Antonio, and go to Florida. It'd be like for big buildings they was building, and that would pay good. And then you get to Florida, you stall out for a little bit, and try to get something back up this way. You know, I didn't usually stay out over one weekend. Hardly ever I stayed out 2 weekends.
Yeah,
that was my goal, to not miss over one weekend at home.
I remember you being home a lot.
I was usually home on the weekend,
Yeah.
you know. But see, you can't beat right here because you've got 65 on one end and 75 on the other. There's so much freight coming down. I've run into drivers that didn't get home but once every 3 months or something. Really? I said I couldn't handle that, especially like out in the Northwest. They had Mercer drivers. Yeah, I've run into Mercer drivers that they didn't get home often at all. But to me, that wouldn't be much of a life, you know.
No, I mean, I guess if you didn't have anybody at home, family.
Yeah, that's true too. Some of them had their stuff in storage, and they just practically live in the truck, you know. I ran into one guy from northern Michigan. He actually felt like he was more, not a Canadian, but he was closer to another state up there that had the towns and stuff. Way up in, I don't remember the name of his town. Pretty nice guy. We actually stayed around each other for 2 or 3 days hauling some military stuff.
Yeah.
So I learned a little about him. And if I don't know how often, but if he got off down like in Georgia or Florida and was laid over for a weekend or so, his wife would fly. They had their own airplane, and she had been known to fly and down and spend a weekend with him.
Wow.
Yeah. He was in the process of he's at the airport, but they were building him a hangar for his little airplane. It's small, but she could fly by herself. Yeah,
so she flew the airplane.
She flew the airplane.
Got in it
no, she would fly to him and hang out for the weekend,
and then fly back home.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. He's a cool dude. At some point I got onto him. I said, "You're not like most Yankees." And I mean, I was born in Michigan, so you know. But I said, "You're not like." He said, "Is it noticeable?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. You're not." Well, he said he really wasn't from Michigan. He married the lady in Michigan and moved there from somewhere. Who knows where? But yeah, we did pretty good together. But
where, besides Minnesota, that you never went back to, where was your least favorite place to go?
Vermont.
That sounds awful.
Vermont.
Wow.
It's just so far up there, and their law was kind of silly.
Yeah.
They had their own. Even after it got real easy to be legal in other states, they still had their own little sticker. New York did that too. You know, you had to get it from New York, put it on the truck.
Okay.
Connecticut, about as bad. I believe it was Vermont one time. I got off. I was delivering in this town, and back then didn't have the GPS or nothing. You know, you just had to call. But it would be like over here getting off 3 exits for Cookville. I ended up getting off of an early exit because of the town, and it did take me to the place I needed to go, but it took me through town instead of going on up to another exit and in. Well, I'm going up through town, and I see this law back there. He didn't have his lights on, but I knew it was a law. And he kept passing people. When he got a chance, he'd get around them. Well, he got up and he stopped me. And it was late in the afternoon. I was almost to where I was going. I'm going to have to unload the next morning. So he comes up to the truck. Let's see all this stuff, you know. So I had a temporary pass for that state. I didn't have it stuck on the truck. And he probably saw that when I went by him or something. But anyway, he was one of these little hotties. And he took all my stuff and he went back to the car. It took him forever. And he come back up here, up to the truck cab, handed him my stuff. And he said, "You better have that sticker on before you come back." And I said, "Okay, if they get it to me, I guess I will." He just had to be smart.
Yeah.
A lot of them, just had to be.
So
Biggest part of them were fine.
Your temporary tag, you had to apply to get the real one. So it's like going to get an ID. They give you a paper copy.
Yeah, I had the paperwork. I just didn't have a sticker on the door or wherever it was supposed to be. It used to be, when I first started, there's a lot more hassle. We had a bingo card and so on. First trip out, I'm backtracking here. The first trip out, I went to South Carolina for Avery. Had all my stuff in order, had my little folder, I didn't have a sticker for the bingo card in South Carolina.
So what's a bingo card?
Well, it looked about like a picture of the United States or something, if I remember right. And you had these little old stickers you put in each state. Okay. It's called a bingo card. Okay. But it was your company had to give X amount for you to go in and out of that state. See, that was before they put everything under one thing. I don't know the proper name, but it got to where when you got your DOT number and you got your license plate, that was about it. See, used to, before I started trucking, trucks might have 10 or 12 license plates. They'd have the whole front bumper covered with license plates.
For each state where they were allowed.
Yeah. Whoever demanded that they have a license for their state. I've got old books that shows pictures of them. But now, the time I started, we only had one license plate, but we'd have like a sticker for New York, but that was something you carried in your cab, the bingo card. And it was a fine of, I don't remember, $100 or something. My first trip out, and on the way back, I broke a crankshaft over at Knoxville. So that was a real beginning.
So first trip.
Yeah, I had my truck record from the other side of Knoxville home. I had it back going in about a couple of weeks.
That was in your own truck?
That was in that old red truck
really?
That we took a picture of.
Wow.
Yeah. I broke 3 cranks in it. I changed the whole motor. I gave up on trying to fix it.
I saw a cab over. I went down to Atlanta a couple months ago for a conference, and there was a cab over driving down there.
Don't see many anymore.
I got excited when I saw it.
That one that you asked me about down at the house, I thought about sometime I might cut the weeds around that and try to sell it on Facebook. That's about a 90-something Peterbilt.
The one
it doesn't have a motor transmission. The big cab over that's sitting back behind there. Yeah. I think it's brown and 2 or 3 colors. Randy drove that truck at one time for somebody, yeah. And I bought it for parts off of it. I don't remember what I needed, but it doesn't have any rear ends under it. That might have been what I got out. Yeah. But the old cab overs are kind of rare. See, around here, the reason we used to have so many cab overs was the length law.
I don't know what that
is. If you had a long trailer, you couldn't put a conventional under it. There was overall length. Tennessee was real bad on that.
Oh,
Horton Swift.
Having the cab over takes off.
That takes off quite a bit. Yeah, 5 foot or so. Yeah. Horton got bunches of tickets. He had a conventional, and they'd catch him out and give him a ticket because he wasn't legal. Yeah. Now, once he got out of Tennessee, he was probably okay. But there's no telling how many tickets.
There was a law that you couldn't drive a truck over a certain. Wow. But it's just like the trucks that you're driving today. Your truck out there, the Marine one, that would have got a ticket?
Back then, well, if the trailer was so long. If you'd had a little short trailer, it was the overall length from nose to tail. You couldn't be but so long. I have no idea at this point.
So with like a 53-foot driving.
That would definitely have been illegal. Yeah.
Wow.
Because see, they wasn't even legal for a long time. 48 feet was about as long for a long time, and 96 wide. And then they made them 102 wide was legal. Mm-hmm. But I got a ticket in Chicago one time, or in Illinois. I was at the edge of Chicago for over length on this road. And I asked the guy, I said, now that was probably in the cab over. I said, what was I supposed to do? I'm going up here to unload. That ain't my problem. And he said, right on up the road here, said, you'll be legal. It's just a trap. They were setting up out there, stopping, pulling you over, giving you a ticket right there in the road, you might say. It's divided. It wasn't interstate, it's divided road.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a ticket. He said, this is a must appear. You know what that means?
You have to go up there, don't it?
I said, you got to be crazy. I said, I live in Tennessee. I said, you need
How
to.
could you do that?
He ended up, well, who knows? But he ended up giving me a address and everything to send the fine. It's money. It's just money. Yeah. Ohio used to get me speeding. I got more speeding tickets in Ohio than anywhere. They had a lot of cops. They had it. This was how good they had it set up. One time I got a ticket, pulled me over between two exits that's like a mile or two apart, and got me and another driver, left our truck sitting on the side of the road, put us in the back seat, and drove around to the courthouse. And you had to sign, if you didn't, you could appear in court, but if you wanted to pay it, you had to sign that you was pleading guilty in a sense, you wasn't going to contest it. Me and that other driver took us right in there, and we paid it. He put us back in the car and come back down there at that other exit interstate and brought us around, dropped us off at the truck.
They probably spent more money doing that than writing you a ticket and letting you go.
Well, but his idea was making money for it. They had lots of cops, and the speed limit was 55 at that time. Huh? Probably 60, just enough to get a ticket. Oh, I knew I wasn't. That time they were doing it with an airplane. I don't know what they call that, but they check you from one mark to another. Yeah. Timing. And on the way over to pay the ticket, me and this old boy's riding in the back seat, and I'm arguing with the police. I said, I knew you. I said, I've been hearing about you being down here. I said, I was not speeding. I said, I knew you was here. Yeah. Well, you got a ticket anyway. They said, the airplane said I was speeding. That was a lie. Me and the other old boy, and I think he had passed me. I don't remember it all. I don't remember that many details, but I think I remember he passed me. But they got us for the same speed. I'm arguing. He said, I don't know. It might have been when the cop got out. He got out and opened our door and he went on doing something else. We had to go in there and take care of it. Yeah. But he said, I wish you wouldn't say too much. He said, I can't be here. My log's messed up. Well, I didn't have nothing to do with him. I was arguing for me, Right. But it didn't help a bit. You can't do nothing with them.
I can't.
Up there, you had to pay. I mean, you had to pay because I even got stopped at night one time. And the cop took me to a convenience store, and we bought. Luckily, I had money because I used to run on cash.
So you had to pay right then?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. They had so many, I guess, that didn't pay. He took me to a convenience store, and we bought a money order. He put it in an envelope in front of me, and I guess went by mailbox. I don't remember the rest of the details, but I had to buy a money order for the ticket. There's usually $7,500.
So what if you didn't pay? They took you to jail?
That's what this one told me that he was going to let me send it in. Young cop, he was full of it. He said, and he's sitting there in the car. I'm sitting in the car with him, up front seat on that one. He's writing it. He said, you know how we usually do up here, And the way he talked, he had me out there. It's too far to go and pay and so on. Yeah. He said, I'm going to let you send this in. He said, and you better send it in, or I have your hind end in jail. And you know what happened in jail? He got real, real graphic about what might happen in jail. I said, well, I guess I'll send it in, But he's a young cop, just doing his job. I mean, he's just writing them tickets. I was speeding. Most of the time I was speeding, because it's hard to do 55.
Yeah. I think
everywhere else.
The whole speed limit. What you're owner operator, so you wouldn't really have probably had to worry about that for like another so many years. But the speed limiters, where you're stuck at.
Yeah. Oh, my truck didn't have that on it, Yeah. Nobody was monitoring me.
I think it's just the big corporate.
Well, you know what? The insurance people is who brings a lot of that on people.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy.
A lot of your dad's trucks, they've kept them down around 68. If speed limit 70, they let them run like 68. And
I don't like regulations.
I think that was the insurance, though. Is who brings that down.
I think you're right.
And of course, you get too many tickets, you can't. I never did get in trouble on my license as far as the points.
Yeah.
And with Mercer, I never did really get in trouble like violations, I don't think the DOT ever fined me on anything, but I've got wrote up several times for something. In other words, I wouldn't get a ticket. I would get wrote up for something. They'd almost fine, lied out or something.
Yeah.
And that would be so many points against you, but then I would, I had my record and everything was good enough to add a little bonus every once in a while. So I stayed out of trouble. I never was on the edge,
Towing the line.
Right. Yeah, I didn't get nervous. TP, for example, Terry Presley, he would get tickets for everything, but he bought this insurance. He bought this thing that would take your tickets to court.
Yeah.
They used to sell that at truck stops. I never did buy it, but he did. And it really saved him a time or two. I know one time he was on the edge. Another ticket would ground him. And this outfit said, hey, we probably can't beat your ticket that we're working on, but we'll keep it tied up in court long enough that one of your others will fall off. They'd fall off, every 3 years or something. And they did. I mean, he got his money's worth in that way. Wow. But I tell you, funny one on him. I used to run with him some now. He was one that got me on at Mercer.
Okay.
And we had the same dispatcher, so occasionally we would both get the same kind of loads and go maybe to Texas or something. We was coming through Mississippi and pulled out of the truck stop, out of the weigh scale. It was overnight. He ran off and left me. He'd always take off, And of course I knew where I was going, so I just eventually catch up to him. Well, I get on up the road and he's on the side of the road, stopped by a cop. So I go on up and pull off the exit and wait on him. And what happened when he came out of the scales ahead of me, this Mississippi Highway Patrol come along and was following right behind him.
Yeah.
And he thought he was following him too close, so he had some big old load lights on the back of his headache rack. He turned them on, and that guy stopped him. He stopped him for illegal spotlight. Those lights, I remember them well, they were so bright. When he would turn them off, they didn't go out. They dimmed down. Have you ever seen a light that bright?
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
They dimmed down. So I guess he blinded him good. Got him a ticket. He got him a ticket. I waited up there and he caught up to me.
Wow.
Another time I was following him through Florida, a Miss Dial. And there again, it's funny that I can remember something like that. But Dial, that's an easy name. A Miss Dial stopped me for speeding. He was in construction. Wasn't flying, but it was speeding. And she come up there, and of course he went on. I got stopped. He went on up to the rest there and waited on me. And she said, I'm not going to give you a ticket. Said, they've got me out here just stopping trucks. And said, I don't think that's really fair. But I had to stop, I don't think he even gave me a warning. But it didn't give me a real ticket. And she said, your buddy was speeding too, but I can't stop 2 trucks.
And it was Terry Presley.
Yeah, it was old Terry.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got, she kept me for 10 minutes, whatever.
Yeah. I
pulled out and went on up to the rest area. He's waiting on me. And I said, that bear said for you to hang on, and she'd be up here in a few minutes and give you a ticket too, because you was the leader. Oh, he's just cussing, She ain't giving me nothing, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I started laughing at him. Yeah. I said, you got me stopped, but I didn't get a ticket. But yeah, she was pretty nice about it. Wow. I got stopped. I'm getting too wound up, but I got stopped at Scales over in North Carolina, got checked, pulled around, parked me. Yeah. It was a lady. And she told me to turn my marker lights on. Well, I was having trouble with my marker lights under the dash. So I'm kicking. She said, and she hollered at me, don't be fooling with them. I'm kicking the dash. Never did get them to come on. Of course, she wrote that up, of course. Yeah. And had Gidget with me. Gidget, I think, got me out of much trouble there. She really liked Gidget. But she said, in the end, she told me, she said, don't you ever come back through and me stop you with this truck in the shape it's in. I had stuff piled up, books is over here piled up on the floor. And my tools, I kept on the left side of me, but the box was bolted down,
Yeah.
and the tools was in the box. She didn't like my housekeeping. Oh, she just moaned about it. And I got a wigwag. You don't know what that is,
I don't know what that is.
Well, your air, you can have light, or you can have a buzzer. It says you got to have a visual or an audio warning for low air pressure.
Okay.
Well, my air pressure is a little red hand that says stop that runs across like this on top of the windshield. And when the air goes down,
I think I've seen that actually.
It'll fall down.
Okay.
They called them a wigwag. Mac used them a lot.
Okay.
And they're foolproof. I mean, they're mechanical.
Yeah.
There's no wiring or anything. She had never seen one. And she just didn't know if that was legal or not. And I said, ma'am, I know you've got to know, but I said, I can tell you. I said, I've had it for years. And I said, they're legal. And she said, I've got to read up on it. And I said, well, when you read up, it will say that you got to have visual or audio. Mm-hmm. And that's visual. Now, I wasn't arguing with her. I was just trying to tell her. I said, now that's past a lot of people. Well, she hollered at one of her buddies, I guess, on the radio. But anyway, younger dude. But he had seen them before. He had seen them. Mm-hmm. But I think she went back and read. That got by okay. I just had the light problem.
Yeah.
But I thought it's funny that, hadn't been for Gidget, I think she would have been tougher because I guess she felt sorry for Gidget for being out there with me. She didn't know Gidget lived like a queen, Gidget had her own seat over there where she could see out.
I'm sure.
I built her.
Probably so she could jump up there.
Well, no, I built a little thing for her to sit in. Yeah. Up even with the window.
So she could see out?
She could see out, and then, of course, she'd sleep quite a bit.
Yeah.
But had her little fluffy thing on top of her ribs on it.
Yeah. A little dog bed.
Yeah, it's one like a bed, Yeah. And I talked to her, and she couldn't talk back, but she'd nod her head. She'd turn that little head sideways.
I think that she did understand human.
All the way around, yeah, somewhat. Mm-hmm. We was up in, I think that was actually Chicago, and she got to needing to use a bathroom. We usually stop. I was getting older, and me and her would stop whenever we needed to. Yeah. And she was letting me know she needed. And I'm saying, there's nowhere to stop. Yeah. And she finally had to use the bathroom in the floorboard. Uh-huh. And it just killed her. And I paid her. I said, it's my fault, But it just bothered her. She knew she wasn't supposed to. Uh-huh. And didn't. I think that was the only time. We had certain places, especially when I was running kind of from Carolinas to, I knew ramps. There's one ramp that we wore out over there. It was a steep ramp. Uh-huh. We'd go up there and park and use the bathroom, stretch our legs a little, and get back in the truck. And you could be doing about 60 time you got back to the bottom, to hit into traffic. Yeah. We'd stop there about every trip. I'd usually have shingles on. We'd stop there and use the bathroom. But yeah, she is company. I never thought I'd take a dog. I had to take her, of course, but I never wanted to fool with one.
Yeah, she was different.
I've seen people have 2 or 3 dogs. A few people had cats.
Really?
Yeah. When Janice went east and I stayed down there in the trailer, I had the old Siamese. He's mean, but me and him got along pretty good. He didn't tear up curtains. Yeah. Hated Frank Guzman. Frank told later, you remember old Frank? Uh-huh. When nobody wasn't looking, Frank would kick his hind end. Well, that's why. Of course, Janice would have kicked Frank's hind end. She'd have known that or been mad at him. When that cat hated him, he'd just sit and look at him, Old Siamese cat.
I appreciate telling me the story.
Well, you know how full of it I am now.
Thanks for tuning in to Maybe Danielle, Maybe a Podcast, episode 1. There may be an episode 2. There may not be an episode 2. We'll see how it goes.